talk to me about what's going through your mind in terms of impact on our area.
Well, you know, the data is pretty powerful. We're looking at 1 in 4 small businesses right now are projected not to survive COVID. There's some data nationally that say 50% of family restaurants will be gone and will not come back. So there's a lot of people hurting. There's a lot of people that are losing everything, and there's a lot of people that aren't going to get that back anytime soon with an economy that's probably going to take, you know, realistically at least 3 years to straighten out. So it's a you know, difficult time. At the same time, you know, the other conversation is, you know, the public health professionals are protecting people's lives, and you know, I think wearing a mask and practicing social distancing is a really important thing. I think it's unfortunate that got politicized. Like, you know, if you're a real man, you didn't wear a mask. You know, it really did get reduced, I think, to a silly conversation. And I wonder where we'd be today if we would have practiced social distancing and masking. I'm wondering how many lives would be saved and how many less people would be harmed, how many more businesses would be saved. But this is where we're at. So we've got to follow the law. We got to follow the stay orders, but we are going to be proposing a shift in how the government thinks about that. New York and even the Biden administration has started to adopt a policy where you're paying attention to microclusters. So the problem with the county shutdowns is, you know, we have big counties, and some parts of our county are thriving and have very low COVID, and they get shut down because they're bundled into another part of the county where maybe some super spreading events have occurred. So we're going to hope, first off, that this is our last shutdown and the vaccine's here. So there is hope. I mean, what a miracle that Moderna and Pfizer and others have produced a vaccine. So take the vaccine. I'm not a vaccine guy. I took my first flu shot in my life. I will take this vaccine the minute they give it to me because I want people to be safe and I want the economy to come back. So it's a hard time. You know, we're you know, the end is close, but you know, it's a difficult decision either way. But we think microclusters and zip codes are the way to measure who should be closed. And places like Folsom are being closed when they're still pretty vibrant, but they're being closed because they're in Sacramento County and the county's being closed. But Folsom is not necessarily exhibiting this kind of pandemic response. So Davis is the same way. When Yolo County closes, Davis closes. Davis has one of the lowest COVID cases in the region. So somewhere in here, you know, we certainly don't want to be irresponsible. We certainly take the virus seriously. Those that didn't, I think we've learned our lesson from that the hard way. But we do have to be smart about these closures. I think we need to move away from county closures, move to microclusters, closer data. You can close Yolo County, keep Davis open, close Sacramento County, maybe keep Elk Grove, Rancho, and Folsom open, and have a perfect way to manage these stay orders, stop the spread in the virus, but also continue to try to save as many businesses as possible.
And when we talk about microclustering, and are you talking about maybe doing these shutdowns like per zip code, or what do you mean by that?
Well, just like this. So I don't know the current data, but the last time we shut down, Folsom shouldn't have been shut down and Davis should not have been shut down. So, you know, Davis residents are highly educated, Folsom residents are highly educated. Both cities are paying attention to stay orders. Both, you know, they're not being irresponsible. You know, they're not showing up at kegger parties. Maybe the kids are, but the adults aren't. And they're managing the social distancing, the masking, the 6 feet like they're supposed to be doing. But the county has a problem, and then the county has a problem in Sacramento. So every community is getting treated the same, regardless of whether or not there are pockets like Davis and Folsom that don't have a significant COVID problem. So therefore, you could possibly keep a Davis business open and a Folsom business open by using a microcluster and a zip code technique. By the way, this is what de Blasio and Como did for New York City. Some parts of New York closed, some parts of New York stayed open, and even the Biden administration in some of their public comments have been talking about microclusters and using zip codes instead of going, your county's red, your county's purple, having a little deeper dive on the sophistication of the numbers and try to save more businesses.
Yeah. Only imagine how LA County would be feeling about that. Like, of course, the county's numbers are off the charts because the county is massive. So
Yeah.
I think that could totally work there. It could totally work here too.
Yeah, there might be a, LA's huge. There might be a dozen cities in LA that have, highly educated people that have been very careful, that have been practicing social distancing and have very low COVID rates. So there are other parts of LA like Santa Monica, in the core where a lot of young folks are that aren't practicing it, that are going out to the bars and doing things they shouldn't be doing. And they're the ones that are spreading COVID. And yet, maybe more conservative communities in LA that were mindful could stay open. So it isn't the virus isn't real model, or it's not we're overreacting to it. It's, can we get a little bit more grain? I mean, if you look at El Dorado Hills, it's been booming. It has low COVID and it's booming. But if you look at El Dorado Hills, it's literally a mile from Folsom. So Folsom's closed, El Dorado Hills is opened. They're both the exact same community. The difference is one's in a county that got closed and the other was in a county that had less restrictions. If you went and pulled the zip codes, you'd find out that El Dorado Hills and Folsom are the exact same communities and they both should be open. And maybe there's pockets in El Dorado County that should be closed instead of being open. So we think these microclusters and the zip codes is the way to do this. It's how New York has handled it all along, and the Biden administration is starting to talk about it as a possibility. Because we've got my hope is we got a couple months of this, then it's behind us. I think we're going to have 20 million vaccines by the end of the year. Thank you, private industry, for actually having the ability to produce a product. Sometimes it's okay to have the pharmaceutical industry on your side. So there's a lot to be excited about, but we just got to figure out how to wade through these next 2 months.
And I want to clarify, is this the microclustering, is this some kind of a proposal that you are like reaching out to the governor's office with?
Yeah, we've been in conversations with some of our local communities. We've just started it. It's about, we saw a Biden official talking about it about 2 weeks ago as a possible alternative to close or open, something a more thoughtful, qualified. So we do have a proposal format. We've been in conversation with some of our public leaders. We're not public health professionals. No one should ever take my advice on public health, but it has been successful in New York. The Biden administration is talking about it. We think it might be an option for us.
And then just real quick, more so on a personal level, because I know that your heart is with our small business owners, our family-owned businesses specifically, even here across our region in Sacramento. When you heard officially from the governor that this is going to be happening, or there's a high probability that it's going to be happening for our Sacramento area, what was going through your mind?
I mean, it's painful. I mean, especially when your job is to be upbeat and inspiring, right? And motivational, right? So our job is to put our best foot forward all the time, see the glass as, half full, not half empty. But you can't deny the intense suffering that's happened to people in our community. You can see it, now that you've brought this up, I really encourage people to give money to the Salvation Army or their church. One of the things that I was really stunned by is I think right now we think, well, everyone's giving and everything's okay with the Salvation Army. It isn't. Before Thanksgiving, my team and I handed out Thanksgiving food for people that were in lines. It was a 4.5-hour line to get a box of food and a gallon of milk. And I will tell you, it is not a criticism of the Salvation Army. It's a criticism of us. We were not giving them very good food. It was not the kind of food that you should be handing someone who's facing food security, who's been in line for 4.5 hours. So please give money to your church, please give money to the Salvation Army. If you're donating food to the Salvation Army, for Pete's sake, give them good food. You know, don't take the stuff that's on your shelf you don't want to eat and give it to the Salvation Army. You know, go through your refrigerator and find good food, fresh food, and take it to your nearest church, food bank, or Salvation Army. Spend some time over these holidays. Write a $100 check. If you got a job, think of how lucky you are. And make sure the food security issues are addressed in our community between now and these next 2 months. Let's, you know, get ready to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves back off in the next 2 or 3 months. Let's put our best foot forward, and let's be the best community we've ever been.